I remember the day, Jim Bob, and I first walked onto this land in Tontitown. We had so many dreams, and wrong. We wanted a place where our 19 precious children could grow, play, and learn about the Lord's heart. For decades, these walls have echoed with the sounds of laughter, piano lessons, and family dinners. But seasons change. Sometimes the Lord asks us to walk through a valley we never expected. As I look at the for sale sign standing where our children used to play, my heart is just so heavy. People are asking why. They are asking if we are lost. Today, I'm opening the doors of the big house for the very last time. I want to tell you the real story behind this liquidation, the legal battles that drained us, the scandals that shook our foundations, and the quiet, tearful goodbye to the home I thought we'd never leave. Please sit with me for a moment as I say goodbye to an era. I remember when we first looked at this land. It was just a dream then. Jim Bob and I wanted a place that would be an umbrella of protection for our family. We spent so many hours praying over the blueprints of this house. We wanted the dorms to be big enough for all our precious girls and boys. We wanted a kitchen where we could feed a small army because we knew the Lord was going to bless us with many children. Building this house was an act of faith. We didn't have much then, but we had a vision. I remember the smell of the fresh wood and the excitement in the children's eyes as they saw their rooms being built. This wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary. We dedicated every room to the Lord. We wanted people to walk in and feel His presence. For years, it was our fortress. We felt so safe here, away from the world, just focused on our family and our faith. It's hard to look at it now and realize that the sanctuary is being handed over to strangers. Oh, if these walls could talk, they would tell stories of so many precious memories. And wrong, I can still hear the sound of the piano being played in the living room for hours. I can see the long line of shoes by the front door, different sizes for every season of growth. I remember the jurisdictions, the children working together to keep this massive home clean. It was a place of order and peace for such a long time. We had our family altars here, our Bible studies, and our celebrations. I remember the joy of welcoming new grandbabies into this home. This house was designed to hold 21 people, and for a long time it was full to the brim. It was never quiet, and I loved that. I loved the chaos of the laundry room and the giant pots of food on the stove. This house was the heart of the Duggar family. Every corner has a story of a scraped knee, a prayer answered, or a child learning to walk. It's not just bricks and mortar to me. It's a living map of our lives together. Leaving it feels like leaving a piece of my own heart behind. Then came the cameras. When we first started filming, we thought it was a way to share our faith with the world. The big house became a character in the show. People all over the world knew our kitchen, our bedrooms, and our backyard. Our home wasn't just ours anymore, it belonged to the viewers. It was a strange season. We had to keep everything picture perfect at all times. The house became a stage. While it brought us many blessings and allowed us to travel and meet so many wonderful people, it also brought a lot of pressure. We started to realize that the outside world was always watching, and the privacy we once had in Tontitown was slowly slipping away. This house, which was meant to be a hidden sanctuary, became a landmark. We had tour buses driving by and strangers at our gates. Looking back, I wonder if that's when the foundation started to shift. We were so focused on the image of the big house that we didn't always see the cracks forming inside. The show made us famous, but it also made us vulnerable. And now, as the cameras are gone and the house is for sale, I'm left wondering what remains of the home we once knew. For a long time, we told ourselves that as long as we stayed under the umbrella of protection, we would be safe. We taught our children that obedience to their father was their shield against the storms of the world. But then the storms started coming from inside our own walls. It started with whispers, and then headlines, and wrong, and then the cameras we had welcomed into our home weren't there to share our faith. They were there to document our shame. I remember sitting in the prayer room, hearing the phones ringing constantly. The house, which had always felt so solid and secure, suddenly felt fragile. We began to realize that no matter how big the house or how many rules we followed, we couldn't keep the brokenness out. The first cracks weren't in the foundation of the building, but in the foundation of our image. People who used to look at us with admiration started looking at us with pity or anger. The sanctuary was no longer a secret, it was a target. And as the family brand began to crumble, the weight of maintaining this massive empire started to feel like more than we could bear. One thing people don't see on television is the cost of truth and the cost of defense. When the legal troubles began, specifically with Josh, the financial burden was staggering. We believe in standing by our family, but that loyalty came with a price tag we never could have imagined. The legal fees for attorneys, investigators, and appeals started to drain the accounts we had worked so hard to fill. Every time a new court date was set, it felt like another piece of our security was being chipped away. We had always been proud of being debt-free, but suddenly, the liquidation of assets became a necessity rather than a choice. We had to look at our properties and our land, the things Jim, Bob had invested in for our children's futures, and realize they might have to be sacrificed just to keep our heads above water. The big house wasn't just a home anymore. It was an asset with a massive overhead that we were starting to realize we could no longer justify. The day TLC canceled our shows, the steady income we had relied on for over a decade vanished. It's estimated that we lost up to $850,000 per season in earnings. While Jim Bob is a very smart businessman, losing that kind of regular cash flow while facing mounting legal bills was a perfect storm. We had grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle, stocking the pantry with 7 shopping carts of groceries at a time. But without the show, those 2,000 grocery trips became a source of stress rather than a routine. We were no longer the Duggars to the network. We were a liability. Our book deals slowed down. Our speaking engagements disappeared, and the world we had built on reality, TV stardom, simply evaporated. We were left with a 97-acre compound and a 20,000 square foot house that required thousands of dollars a month just to keep the lights on and the air running. The reality of our situation was becoming impossible to ignore. The big house was built for noise. It was built for 21 people to live and breathe together. But as the children started to grow up, the house began to feel quiet. Some children moved away to start their own lives, like Jana recently moving to Nebraska. Others, like Jill and Jinger, chose to distance themselves for their own healing. The massive industrial kitchen, where I used to spend all day prep cooking for a crowd, now sits empty for most of the day. Walking past the empty dorm rooms where the girls used to giggle late into the night is one of the hardest things for a mother. A house this size needs a family to fill it. And as our family scattered, some by choice, some by circumstance, the big house started to feel more like a museum than a home. It was a reminder of a season of life that had passed. We realized that holding on to the past was preventing us from embracing whatever the Lord has for us in the future. I'll never forget the night Jim Bob sat me down and told me we needed to consider selling. We had already sold off parcels of land, 5 acres here, a lot there, to stay afloat. We had even sold off the Baylor mansion for a profit to help cover expenses. But the big house, that was different. That was our identity. We prayed together for hours. Jim Bob explained the numbers, the taxes, and the reality that our real estate business needed to pivot. He's always been the provider, and I could see the pain in his eyes as he admitted that the empire he built was shifting. We realized that if we wanted to provide for Anna and her children who were living in a warehouse on our property, we had to be willing to liquidate our biggest asset to buy more modest, practical homes for the family. The final straw was realizing that the big house was becoming a burden rather than a blessing. It was time to let go. It was time to say goodbye to Tontitown. Packing up 30 years of life in this house is a journey I never thought I'd have to take. Every box I tape shut feels like I'm closing a chapter on a child's life. I found a box of old baby shoes in the attic, little worn out sneakers from when the boys were toddlers, and tiny pink booties that all the girls wore. It's just so precious to look back and see how the Lord has brought us through so many seasons. As I wrap the old family photos and the hand-made ornaments from our Christmas trees, I find myself sitting on the floor just crying. It's not just about the objects. It's about the memories of the people who were here when those things were new. I'm finding old school assignments, drawings, and even some of the first outfits my grandbabies wore. Sorting through a 20,000 square foot home takes so much time, and every room I empty makes the house feel a little colder. I'm trying to keep a grateful heart, focusing on the blessing of the years we did have here. But the silence in these hallways as the furniture leaves is a heavy burden to carry. The morning the for sale sign went up on the front lawn was a very difficult one. For decades, our home was a place of privacy, at least behind our gated driveway. But seeing that sign standing there for everyone to see felt like a public declaration that our time in Tontitown was over. It was no longer the Duggar home. It was now a listing. I stood at the window and watched as people drove by, slowing down to take pictures of the sign. It made me feel so vulnerable. We've always tried to be an open book for our fans, but having our private sanctuary marketed to the highest bidder feels different. Our neighbors, who have been with us through so many ups and downs, have been so kind, but you can feel the shift in the community. The house that was the center of so many family conferences and celebrations is now just a piece of real estate. I prayed that whoever buys this home will feel the love that we poured into these walls, and that they will use it to bless their own family, just as it blessed ours for so long. Oh, I know there has been a lot of speculation about why we are making this move. People talk about the financial collapse, and while it's painful to discuss, the Lord tells us to be honest in all our dealings. The truth is, the last few years have been incredibly draining. The legal battles we faced, especially standing by our son through his trials and appeals, came with a financial cost that we never could have prepared for. Jim Bob has always been so smart with our investments, but the sheer volume of legal fees and the loss of our steady income from TLC created a perfect storm. We reached a point where we had to decide between holding on to a massive, expensive compound or ensuring we had enough to support the family members who still depend on us. Selling the big house is a form of liquidation that allows us to settle our debts and move forward with a clean slate. It's a humbling experience to realize that everything you've built can be so quickly shifted by the trials of life. We are learning to hold loosely to the things of this world and tightly to the things of the Lord. It breaks my heart to know that some of our supporters feel disappointed by this change. For so many years, the big house was a symbol of what a large, faithful family could achieve. We wanted to be an example of God's provision. When the show ended and now as the house is sold, I think some people feel like the dream we shared with them has ended too. I want those precious people to know that our faith isn't tied to a building. The brand was never supposed to be about the house. It was supposed to be about the Lord. We've received so many letters from fans who are sad to see this era come to an end. It's hard to tell them that the picture perfect life they saw on TV was also a life of many struggles. We are human and we are imperfect. Losing the big house is a public admission that our lives have changed. But I hope our fans can see that even in our fall from grace, we are still trusting in God's mercy to guide us into our next season. The question everyone is asking is, Where will Jim, Bob, and Michelle live now? We are moving into a much smaller home, something more practical for this season of our lives. We've recently invested in a beautiful home nearby for Anna and her 7 precious children, so she can have the privacy and security she needs while Josh is away. Our new place is closer to her, so we can continue to be a hands-on part of their daily lives. It's going to be a big adjustment going from 20,000 square feet to a normal-sized house, but honestly, I'm looking forward to the simplicity. I'm looking forward to a kitchen where I can actually find everything without walking across a massive room. We are staying in Arkansas. This is our home and where our family is. We may not have the massive compound anymore, but we have each other. The Lord is providing a new place for us to rest. And while it won't be the landmark the big house was, I know it will be filled with just as much love. We are ready to start this quieter, more private chapter of our lives together. Seeing how our children have reacted to the sale of the big house has been a journey in itself. For the younger ones still at home, like Josie and the boys, there is a lot of sadness about leaving their only home, but for the older ones who have already moved on, the reactions are mixed. Some, like Jessa and Ben, have been so supportive, helping us sort through things and offering a place to stay if we need it. Others have been more distant. I know that for some of my daughters, this house represents a season of life they are glad to leave behind. They see the sale not as a loss, but as a necessary step for Jim, Bob, and me to find a quieter life. It hurts a mother's heart to see the children divided, even in how they feel about their childhood home. We had a final family dinner, at least for those who could come, and the atmosphere was so heavy. We shared stories and laughed through the tears, but you could feel that the center of our family was shifting. This house was the glue that held us all together in one place, and now that the glue is gone, we have to find a new way to stay connected as a family. I cannot tell the story of leaving this house without talking about the shadow that has hung over us. And the choices our son Josh made have had a ripple effect that touched every single room in this home. While we love him with a mother and father's heart, we cannot ignore the destruction that has followed. The financial burden of his legal defense was the final straw for our real estate empire. Every time I walk past the room that used to be his, I feel a weight that is hard to describe. We tried so hard to build a fortress to keep the world out, but we learned the hard way that the greatest battles are often fought within. The big house was meant to be a place of purity and light, but the scandals made it a place of scrutiny and pain. Selling this house feels, in a way, like we are trying to leave that shadow behind. We want to move into a place where the air is lighter and the focus can be on healing and supporting Anna and the children. We are carrying the lessons of the past with us, but we are choosing not to let the darkness of those choices define our future. The last week in the house has been the most surreal. The furniture is gone, and the echoes of our voices are the only things left. I did a final walk through of the girls' dorm, where I spent so many nights tucking in precious heads and listening to their prayers. Seeing it empty, with only the outlines of where the beds used to be, was just so hard. I spent time in the industrial kitchen, scrubbing the counters one last time. I thought about the thousands of meals I prepared there. The tot casseroles, and the giant pans of biscuits. It was my jurisdiction for so many years, and now it belongs to someone else. I walked into the prayer room where Jim Bob and I spent hours on our knees for our children. Wrong. That room felt the most holy to me. I left a small Bible on the windowsill for the next family, hoping they find the same peace we sought there. Cleaning these empty rooms felt like a final act of service to the home that served us so well. It was my way of saying thank you to the walls that kept us safe for 20 wonderful, difficult, and precious years. We were raised to believe that God's blessing was often shown through plenty. We had the show, the big house, and the successful business. But the Lord is teaching us now that His blessing is also found in the stripping away, losing our earthly possessions. The things we worked so hard for is a humbling season of life. I've had to go back to the scriptures and remind myself that they came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. Our worth isn't in the size of our house or the number of acres we own. Jim Bob has taken this very hard. As the provider, he feels the weight of the liquidation more than anyone. But I tell him every night, Jim Bob, we still have our faith and we still have each other. We are learning to find joy in the small things again. A smaller garden, a quieter kitchen, and the chance to be more private. Scarcity is a hard teacher, but it brings you closer to the heart of the Father. We are finding that when you have less of the world, you often have more of Him. Watching my husband through this move has been heartbreaking. Jim Bob built this empire from the ground up. He spent his life flipping houses and making deals to ensure our children would always have a place to go. Seeing him carry boxes out of the big house, looking so tired and defeated, is something I never expected to see. He feels like he failed. He feels like the umbrella he tried to build was blown away by the wind. I've spent many nights just sitting with him in the dark, reminding him that he did his best. He made mistakes, yes, and we have paid a heavy price for them. But he is still the head of our home, and he is still my Prince Charming. He is working so hard to make sure Anna and the grandkids are settled in their new home before he even thinks about our own comfort. This move is his final liquidation, a sacrifice of his pride and his legacy to do what is right for the family that remains. I've never been more proud of him than I am now, as he humbly accepts this new, smaller path the Lord has set before us. Last night, Jim Bob and I sat on the front porch steps for the very last time. The sun was setting over the Arkansas hills, and the sky was filled with the most beautiful shades of pink and orange. It was so quiet. No cameras, no children running around, just the two of us and the land we've called home for 20 years. We didn't talk much. We just held hands and looked out at the lawn where we hosted so many weddings and fall festivals. I thought about all the people who have walked through those gates. I realized that while the house is for sale, the fruit of the years we spent here, our children and grandbabies, is still with us. We prayed a final prayer of thanksgiving for the protection this home provided during our growing years. As the light faded, we stood up, walked inside, and turned off the lights for the last time. It was a moment of absolute finality. The big house era is over. We walked out the front door, locked it, and didn't look back. We are moving toward a new horizon, trusting that the same God who led us to Tontitown is already waiting for us at our next destination. To everyone who has followed our family's journey, I want to say a final thank you. You've been with us through the highest highs and the lowest lows. You saw us build this house, and today you see us leave it. I know there is a lot of noise and judgment in the world right now, but I want to leave you with this. And buildings can fall, empires can crumble, and reputations can be lost. But the Lord's heart never changes. We are moving into a quieter season. We won't be on your television screens anymore. And we won't be living in a landmark, but we will be living. We will be loving our family and supporting our children and seeking the Lord's will every day. Please continue to pray for our precious family as we navigate this transition. Our home is no longer a massive house in Tontitown. Our home is wherever we are together under the grace of God. This is Michelle Duggar saying goodbye to the big house and hello to a new, simpler life. God bless you all, and goodbye for now.